After playing Tigreal in over 1,000 games, I've cracked the code for the perfect Tigreal gameplay strategy. In this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about mastering this hero. Plus, I'll show you some pro moves that most players don't even know exist. Alright, let's kick things off with the most important part. Trust me, you're probably using them completely wrong. Tigreal's passive gets a fearless stack whenever he uses a skill or takes a basic attack. After 4 stacks, he blocks the next basic attack, even from turrets. Minion attacks don't give stacks or trigger this. The first skill is the attack wave. Tigreal smashes the ground, sending out 3 shock waves that deal damage and slow enemies by 20%, 40%, then 60% for 1.5 seconds. Tigreal's second skill is that he charges forward, damaging and pushing enemies. He can use it again within 4 seconds to deal more damage and knock enemies airborne for 1 second. Tigreal ultimate is he slams his hammer, pulling in and stunning enemies for 2 seconds while dealing damage. The first half can be interrupted, but the second half can only be stopped by suppression. Later in the video, I will show you how to use these skills in different situations, and I'll also include helpful combos of his skills that are very effective. Before we get to the gameplay tips, let me show you the perfect emblem setup that will make you unkillable. Use the tank emblem with these talents. Firmness, for extra physical and magic defense. Wilderness Blessing, for extra speed while roaming in the jungle and river. Brave Smite, if you deal damage to the enemy, it will grant you HP regen. Alternatively, you can use Concussive Blast if you want some extra damage. And for the spell, Flicker is the only best option for Tigreal. Here are some killer Tigreal combos you need to use. First skill plus second skill. Start by aiming your first skill in the direction you want. Then immediately follow up with your second skill to push enemies in that same direction. This combo not only hits harder, but also keeps your enemies off balance. Ultimate combo. Activate with your ultimate to lock enemies in place, then hit them with your first and second skills for a perfect follow-up. Simple, effective, and devastating. Flicker plus ultimate. Use Flicker to position yourself, then instantly drop your ultimate. This catches enemies off guard and makes sure they don't see it coming. Ultimate plus Flicker. Want to really surprise them? Activate your ultimate first, then Flicker into the perfect spot. This makes it super hard for enemies to escape and guarantees a clean catch. Second skill plus Flicker. Dash with your second skill, then use Flicker mid-dash to change direction and hit enemies from an unexpected angle. It's a great way to reposition quickly and surprise your opponents with a set. Let's talk about the early game. It's all about keeping your team safe and setting up plays to give them the edge. Start by sticking to the gold lane to help your marksman farm safely, or roam over to the mid lane if you see an opportunity to make a play. You're not here to steal minions, you're here to make sure your squishy teammates don't get bullied. Tigreal's Sacred Hammer is your go-to in the early game. Use it to poke at enemies, just enough to annoy them and force them back, or to disengage if things get dicey. And if you see an opening, dash in with your hammer, then follow up with your first skill to set up some damage for your teammates. Be smart about it though. You're not invincible yet. Don't let your team walk blind into enemy ambushes. Scout bushes whenever you can. Your first skill is great for this. Just throw it in and you'll know if someone's hiding. Better you get surprised than your carry, right? Zoning is your best friend here. Keep the enemy at a distance from your squishy allies, especially your marksmen. If you can create enough space for them to farm and level up, you're setting your team up for success. A good Tigreal doesn't just survive the early game, they control it. Alright, this is where Tigreal becomes the star of the show, mid to late game. If you've made it this far, it's time to flex your tanking skills. First off, stick close to your damage dealers, but not too close. You're their shield, not their bodyguard. Stay slightly ahead to soak up any incoming damage, but always be ready to peel if an assassin decides to target your backline. This is Tigreal's bread and butter. Don't rush in like a maniac. Wait for the perfect moment to implosion and pull in multiple enemies. Trust me, nothing feels better than landing a 4 or 5 man stun and hearing your teammates scream, "Nice ulti!" Be patient. It's all about timing. Your Sacred Hammer isn't just a dash, it's a multi-purpose tool. If enemies try to dive your carry, smack them away with Sacred Hammer and teach them some respect. And if they're looking for a fight, use your hammer to deny them any chance of engaging. Keep your carry safe, and they'll carry you to victory. When it's time for turrets, Lord, or Turtle, you're the boss. Use the Sacred Hammer to push away enemies trying to steal the objective. If things get dicey, don't be afraid to use your ultimate to keep the enemy jungler out of the fight. Securing objectives is the fastest way to win the game. Be the wall your team needs. Combo your ultimate with your teammates' AoE skills. Imagine landing Implosion on 5 enemies, and Farsa rains down her feathered airstrike on top of them. It's GG from there. So, communicate. Use pings, voice chat, or whatever you've got to make sure your team knows what's coming. Let's talk about the most common mistakes I see players make with Tigreal and how you can avoid them. Look, I get it. You want to feel like you're doing something, but throwing out skills randomly? That's a recipe for disaster. Tigreal's skills are game-changing when used at the right time. Sacred Hammer isn't just a dash, it's your tool for starting fights or saving your teammates. If you waste it on an enemy that's already running away, guess what? You're left defenseless when the real fight starts. Be patient and think ahead. You're not the star damage dealer. Your job is to keep your squishy teammates alive and make the enemy's life miserable. When you leave your carry alone to chase a low-health enemy, you're basically saying, "Hey assassin, free kill right here. Stay close to your team and trust that they'll finish off the enemies you've locked down." Tigreal's ultimate is your big moment, but it's useless if your team isn't ready to follow up. Before you dive in with Implosion, make sure your damage dealers are in position. You don't want to pull off an epic 5-man stun only to realize your team is too far to capitalize. Communication is key here. Ping your team or use voice chat if you can. When it all comes together, it feels amazing. And that wraps up our Tigreal guide. If you want to improve your tank gameplay using Tigreal, watch this roaming guide. Thank you for watching.